February 21st, 2023 at 5 o'clock. The full Board of Selectmen is here, and David Vogel, Selectman, is joining us remotely due to illness. He's going to be all better, but he's here with us on a pod in the middle of the room. Item 1 on the agenda is the discussion of the 2024 fiscal budget recommendations to be filed with the Board of Finance, and action is appropriate. Tony's tuning up the computer in case we have any questions. You have a memorandum in your packet describing what's in your packet, which we did send out last Thursday by email, and also anybody could pick up a packet. So you've had 5 days to review this, and I hope each one of you will bring all your questions for a robust discussion so we can finish the budget this evening and forward it to the Board of Finance for their meeting. There's a budget summary, a mill rate calculation sheet, a detailed line item budget, revised revenue estimates, capital improvement program 6-year summary, and the American Rescue Plan request for funding. So with that, we usually start with the capital budget, correct, Tony?
Correct.
So that is hopefully the first place to start. And that is, if you could all turn to that, if I can find it myself. It's in the back, right? Yep, Capital Improvement Plan 6-year summary for fiscal years 2024 to 2029. Wow. Time flies. Everybody on the right page? Anybody? David, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Thank you. So with that, we will begin with the, just so you know, by the way, by way of history, Tony and I took a look at the budget several times, made some what we thought were adjustments, I guess we'll call them adjustments, on some of the projects and asks, and I would invite all of you to contribute. As I said, if you disagree or you want to change something, add something back, remove something else, please feel free. And if there is a disagreement about any line item, we will vote for it. We'll take a vote. So with that, the first category is the Woodbridge Board of Education.
So I just want to,
Thanks for piping up.
it's okay, make a comment about, as Beth mentioned, we made some recommended adjustments in both the capital, the operating budget, and in our revenues. And the budget as it stands currently would be 45.95 mils, which would be a 4.98% increase over 2023 budget. Just to give you a sort of an idea of where the starting point is for this. And the first area where we have is the capital budget. So I can go through these if
Sure.
I think that would be helpful.
Probably better. You're the money dude. You're the finance director.
So in the requested budget, the Board of Education requested remediating drainage issues, parking lot and sidewalks, building security upgrades, and all of those were identified as capital items for pay-as-you-go. And so since then, we've formed the building committee, as you all know, and I know the building committee is looking into all those items, and so we would most likely borrow for those items in a bond issue to include also the roof replacement. And so we changed these from a pay-as-you-go item to a bond issue. So that therefore removes those items from our tax rate to be borrowed for at a future date. Sure.
So I see that under the column that's 2024, it's gone from bold, which would be pay-as-you-go, and the recommendation now that we're looking at in the BOS-REC column is an amount. And then in the 2025 column, there's a similar amount for 3 of these items.
Correct.
It's both of them together, and you're anticipating that the bonding itself would happen in which of the years?
The bonding could happen in either 24 or 25, depending on the committee's project. This
Yeah.
is just, gives you an idea of what your priorities are for these funds.
All right, so we wouldn't necessarily split.
You're not tied into it, and you wouldn't necessarily split it.
Right, if it's 700,000 for the remediating drainage issues, right, 350,
Right.
it could be all 700,000 along with that roof in the 2025 column.
It could, as a matter of fact, if you think it'd be easier for people to understand that, I can make that adjustment. And,
I actually do think it would be
yeah,
easier.
I could certainly do
If it
that.
stayed together, because otherwise it
Absolutely.
seems to indicate we're doing it on two timetables, and
I
we
could
want
certainly do
people
that.
to
And do you
know.
think I could either put them in 24 or 25? It would have no impact or difference in the budget process. If you think 24 is more realistic, I can do that. That would be next fiscal year.
That's the committee.
There you go, asking me the questions
Yeah.
now, Tony, okay.
Or we could keep them in 25.
I think for communications purposes, it might be helpful if we say to them, it's the 2024 year in which we think we're going to have it to referendum for approval.
Correct, that's the idea, right?
So let's put it in 2024, so no one gets the impression we're trying to push this out a year. We
Yep.
are trying to get it
That's
done as
fine.
soon as possible.
Sure.
Absolutely, and the roof as well.
Yeah, yeah, let's put them together, that would
Okay.
be great, thank you,
No problem.
as long as everyone else agrees. Just
I
as you
thought
wish.
there was some urgency for the repair of the roof.
There is.
There is.
An ongoing project. So,
There is, correct?
Um,
do we have any funding for that? And is there-
Yeah.
I know we have funding here, but is there anything being done now about that?
That's a very good question, because there are leaks that are actively happening. We all went there and saw buckets, right?
They're not
Um,
gonna get better.
As soon as we get a recommendation from the committee and or the Board of Education,
Well,
we.
yeah, and there's a few steps there. We have to first go out to an RFP to get the
Right.
professional services to get ready.
Right,
And we importantly have to file things with the state of Connecticut, and that has to happen in a certain order as well. So we're gonna move the entire project along as quickly as possible.
okay.
But in the meantime, should perhaps Beecher be spending some of its current operating budget to make some temporary repairs where water is incurring? My opinion is yes. We've talked about it at the building committee level,
Okay.
and I think we should talk more about that at the building committee level.
There is a member of the Board of Education,
Jeff Hughes, who
right.
is
who-
facilities chair.
Right, who's on the building committee of of the Board of Education as
Yeah.
well, so he's well aware of this.
And
And, we just, as soon as we have help or recommendations, we do need to go forward. It's just the money has to come from
Yeah.
somewhere, we don't have it in our current year's budget, so.
Yep.
So with all due haste.
all deliberate speed.
Yep, deliberate speed, right, okay. Does anyone want to make any changes to these numbers? Okay, so
Okay.
that one we're off, okay. The Board of Selectmen?
The Board of Selectmen, there were a number of items. The first we'll discuss is the design and engineering services for the renovation of the center building. That was phase one. That was requested by the Center Building Committee, not to be confused with this is the Center Building Committee. This would be phase one. And it's our intention to fund that in the current year, which would be the next few months. We've had a light winter, and we're hopeful that we can fund phase one in the current year. So we removed it from the budget.
This came to the board, if you recall, a memo from Dwight Rowland, and he asked that we fund it, and I said, as soon as we get through winter,
Correct.
contingency, hopefully can help us with that, because he'd like to get that done, and I assured him it definitely would not be February, but maybe March, maybe April, depending on how we do with SNOW. So, and
Still
all
not
that.
saying that. Is that different from, so the memo
That's
that's
different than
sitting
that.
here?
Completely,
Yeah.
this is something else,
That was
Different
handled
project.
next.
right,
Yeah.
this is ARPA.
This is for the whole,
stuff.
this one here that we're talking about is for the entire building.
Right,
It's phase one of
right,
rent for the entire facility.
right,
So the 50,000 here?
Right,
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And that's pay-as-you-go, it's gonna
correct.
stay pay-as-you-go.
And we're hopeful to pay for that this year, so
Yeah.
that's why we removed it.
yeah.
The 145, 900 is phase two. That's out in 2025.
Yep. Okay. So then we move to the ARPA, basically the three items above that is ARPA funds,
Correct.
correct? Which is the American Rescue Plan infrastructure monies that, from the Biden administration. We received 2.6 million.
Correct.
And we spent,
A little less than 300,000 on the senior center.
right,
So we have left 2,314,568.
right.
And it was decided we would use this budget process to identify the priorities for the funds. And I know the members of the Strategic Plan Committee have seen it, but I reprinted and sent out the list of requests that we'd received, so everyone can see those. And that includes a most recent request from Dwight as for the Center Building Committee project concerning the gym, in which he's requesting ARPA funds for to finish the balance of that project. So the discussion tonight is to decide what the priorities are for the ARPA funds and to put them in this document so that they will be then recommended to the Board of Finance, who will be reviewing this next week.
Right, and have an opportunity, they'll have an opportunity to change everything we do, so, you know,
And then,
depending on what we decide. I know there's some discussion out there related to, do we put it all, I think, into the business district? You know, the whole entire, you could see up above, capital improvements in the business district. And it was our thought that we should take out at least some of it and put toward the renovation of the former firehouse and also the center of the town government improvements. Now that's $1 million that we thought we could use. We could change any of those numbers. I personally don't think everything should go in the capital improvements in the business district because we're still waiting to hear back from, I think we had a presentation from, what's the name of it?
so SLR presented in
Right.
February. We'll be getting their final report in the next few weeks. And then Pyrie Associates will be presenting to the board most likely in April. And so then they'll have placemaking suggestions. And then at that point, you'll have a number of items that you can.
Right, and if I recall, is it Jason?
Jason's from SLR,
Right.
correct.
Suggested that there are perhaps lots and lots, I shouldn't say lots and lots, but tons of, well, that's even a bit stronger word, grant monies, federal grant funding for a lot of these things. So this, to me, is a fluid thing, and it can change at any point. We have up until the annual town meeting, actually, the Board of Finance will have it next week, and we won't have too much data, but we might have some as to what grants are available. I know Dwight's recommendation is for some monies that would go toward, I think no matter what, we have to do the HVAC system in the gym. This had been a priority since the beginning because it's, everything okay back there? Okay. Okay, and I think that we should consider some money toward that for sure, because that's been a priority for meeting space. We need that HVAC system done. We can certainly, we have a $500,000 steep grant for that, but we also have to consider that it's above $500,000 to do the gym, correct?
Correct.
The estimate, as he says. So the question is, do we leave things the way they are now and let the Board of Finance when we have more data? Or anyway, I open it up to the board to give me some, or Tony or all of us, some ideas on how to do this. I don't want to put the whole thing in my personal opinion, in the business district. But, so anybody out there? Joe, what do you think? Okay. Sheila, David?
So, I think that understanding that both the March Board of Selectmen meeting and the April Board of Selectmen meeting will have more information about exactly what's needed. We saw with the old firehouse renovation that there's a lot of things, you can't do them all.
Right.
And so we do need their recommendation about what real dollar amount they need.
We voted to spend some money to get the actual numbers now.
Right.
I believe from that group.
Which will
in
be very
February,
helpful.
right?
Right.
We did that.
Right.
Right.
So we'll have a better handle on that.
Right.
I don't think, I could be wrong, I don't think that the $2 million we have for that project is enough. But on the other hand, you know, maybe we have, then at that point, we have to make some decisions about that group.
Right.
You know, how much we're gonna do that, because I think it's important that we have some open space in the Grove. We don't have to do everything that's recommended as well, but I kinda like to spread, that's why, you know, we came
Right.
up with these ideas as sort of placeholders, and
Yeah.
we can send this to the Board of Finance, and then if you decide to change it or wanna do something differently, they can do that.
I know we did speak at length in the Strategic Planning Committee meeting about the fact that since these are kind of once-in-a-lifetime funds, and they're meant to hopefully make us eligible for further funding, because the Biden administration has also made available all this infrastructure money. We need to be prepared and kind of be shovel-ready in our business district, and with,
That's what I'd
especially
like
with
to
those
do,
roads
right,
and all that
right.
interconnection. So if we're gonna hear more about that from SLR in March, and then we're gonna hear more.
I don't think in March.
When did we
think
say
in
we were
March,
gonna hear
maybe?
SLR?
So, you'll probably hear some more in April.
Okay,
Um,
still in
so-
time for this budget
Right.
Yeah, the
discussion.
2030 task force is now trying to fine tune some of this stuff. and-
Correct. They're
and
gonna meet in
identify where the
March.
grants
Yeah.
are gonna be.
Right, correct.
So in addition to this money, the 1 point.
Beth?
Yep, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I did have one thing to say on this, is that it does seem every time we get a grant and we hear back from Silver Petricelli, the budget is sometimes 2 to 4 times as much as what we have the grant for. So it does seem like we can't just assume that any future federal grants that we might get to cover our economic development needs are going to really not come with similar kinds of problematic necessity for more cash. And I, for one, looking at the $2 million grant that was generously given to us by the state to renovate the firehouse, think that we should start with that and see if anybody shows up, because to me that's a bit of a field of dreams. There's no return on our investment that we would see in the way we would see a return on investment should we be able to invest more in our economic district, in the business district downtown. So I think we looked at that project as being a $2 million grant, and we showed up with a $5 million proposal from Silver Petricelli and the building committee, and I think that at some point, if we're going to ever do something fiscally responsible for this town, we're going to have to kind of cut back on our idea that we could just spend indefinitely for some of these projects. We at least should see, I think, whether or not the former firehouse has any real traction with the town. I think that continuing to pour millions of dollars into a field of dreams at this point in our financial situation is probably more than what a lot of the people in town will like. And it might further compromise our ability to get some of the bonding done that we really need to do for things like schools.
Okay, thank you for that.
I feel that the money that we're getting from ARPA is a real opportunity to do something to improve the town. And you have to decide what you feel would best improve the town. Now, I was very impressed with the presentations by Peary and SLR as to what they want to do in the business district. And that would certainly change the face of that area, which is really a hodgepodge right now and not very attractive. It would also make it a much nicer place for the people who live down there to live. And, we tend to concentrate a lot of our spending up in this neighborhood, up the hill here. And the folks down in the flats just sort of, gets whatever's left over. And I think this would be an opportunity to benefit both the business district, which would have financial benefits for the town, and also make it safer and more pleasant for the people who live down there. Allow them to walk, allow them to have sidewalks, allow them to have something really pretty to look at. And I would really be in favor of using the bulk of that money in the business district. Now, as far as the community center, we've got the funding for the interior for that, so that's going ahead. And what we have right now on the central campus is, certainly, it's more than adequate. And I would hate to see spending the rest of that money on that project now. I think we might be able to, if people use that and there's a real need for it, we could stage it into the future and, see about grant money for that. But we have this in our hands, and I'd hate to see it earmarked for something which, in my opinion, might not be the best use of that money, since we do have this opportunity in the business district. Plus, we have a whole shopping list of people who want money for other good causes. So, I think we have to prioritize really what's important here.
Well, if you look at what we divided it, half of the money is going into the business district, according, it's 1.3, and then 1 million into the other two projects.
Yeah, well, I think those other, I've been trying to be diplomatic, but I think those other two projects really don't lack the merit of any of the other projects that have been asked for.
Well, we also don't know how much money we're gonna get from grants from the business district, and Jason sort of suggested there would be quite a bit of money. Obviously, we don't know yet. And lastly, I would say, we have to put some money into the center gym. There
Yes,
isn't
I
enough.
think
We
we
have
do
a
have
steep
to.
grant of 500,000, it's not enough apparently. We need how much
Correct.
more?
I think
We have to do the roof.
HVAC at the gym is a priority.
We do have a $500,000 steep grant to do that. We also asked for money for the bathrooms, and they seem to think 500,000, well, that's as much as you can get. We won't have enough money to do the bathrooms, and I'm okay with that at this point. Maybe we'll have an opportunity to get another steep grant this year, but we have to do the roof on the center building in order to do the HVAC. Because the mechanicals, that roof right now, what is it, about 80,000?
Right.
That roof won't hold the mechanicals, so we have to do that, and then there's a third thing we have to do. I forget what it is, the floor,
Right, some items inside the gym.
yeah, so it's,
Right. So those are priority items.
Yeah.
We have to get them.
right. So I would consider some of that money would come out of the center,
Yeah. But
town
as
improvements.
far as the firehouse renovation, the center growth, that's way down the line
Right.
in terms of importance to the town.
Well, that's your opinion. I don't agree
Well,
with you.
There are other things.
That building, I know.
There are other
Okay,
things
we can
I
argue
think
this all night. We disagree.
we could. We could, yeah.
Yep, and you've made your point, and David made his point, and,
And Sheila made her point.
yep, exactly. So at this, yep,
Beth,
yes.
to David's point, I think isn't the need for the former firehouse and other extensive improvements downtown something that does not necessarily have to happen now? We could bond it later. We could, if the town really gets behind it and wants to use it. So far, we have no information about how the town will use it.
Yep,
Wouldn't it be better to see what the footprint looks like and then move forward at a later time with additions that could be made rather than because I think it's going to be much better for us to be able to go forward with some seed money onto these various things that might benefit the business district. We have, after all, launched, this is at least the second time we've done a full look at the business district, and the first plan sat on has been sitting on our website for probably 10 years with little or no action, and it just seems to me that
I think
if we
longer
keep
than
taking
that.
actions on
Yeah.
things that aren't related to what we really are trying to do, that we're gonna be burdening the taxpayers unnecessarily.
Can I ask a question about Dwight's memo?
Sure.
So are we currently reflecting, because I think it came late, so I don't know that it's reflected here.
It's not, it
Okay.
came after I put this together.
Okay, so if we want to allocate some funds for this from the funds we're talking about here.
Correct.
Do we need a new line item?
Correct, you need to
Okay.
put a new line item in and then take funds from one of the other line
Right.
items.
Right.
That's correct.
So now again, you put a question back to me, Tony. I don't have a sense of
See, I
what dollar
think-
amount
I
we should
think
put in, but.
What's important is here, we are not ignoring the business district. I mean,
Right.
half of the money, well, actually, a little bit more than half, $314,000 is going to the business district, or if we choose to do that eventually when this happens.
So the memo's looking for 580,000,
Right.
Yeah,
which would complete the roof, the mechanicals, the bathrooms, and the other items in the gym that would completely renovate the space.
Right. So, is it
but
helpful?
we have 500,000 from the state. grant.
Right, so that would make the project get a little over $1 million.
Right.
Right, so go over. So we have a couple of line items here. We have the capital improvements in the business district, that's a discrete. Then we have the renovation of the former firehouse, and then the center of town grove improvements, and then just the design and engineering for the renovation of the center building.
Right, so the design engineering and center building is not part of the discussion because
It's not AARP.
it's not our funds,
Right,
correct?
right. So I'm just, from a perspective of explaining to people what we're doing here, if we want this to be clear, would it be possible to sort of combine, rather than adding another line item that's talking again about the center building for the 580 or whatever amount we designate, could we take all three of the items and say, these three items will be funded, and the total we'll fund for the three items is this amount, but we haven't decided yet what portion is going to the old firehouse, to the grove, to the
Well,
center
I think
building.
you need at some point,
Yeah.
once you get to the public hearing, you're gonna need specific
Yeah.
items.
Right.
So
And that's
that,
in April.
right.
Yeah.
Will we have enough?
We
any
don't
more
have it
data?
tonight,
Will we
unfortunately.
have any more money? Any more information by the preliminary budget hearing? I don't know.
I mean, otherwise, if we're adding another line item
If you don't have
here,
the information in this, the idea is that the appropriation of the ARPA money needs to follow your appropriations process, right? Which we've discussed, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and then the town meeting. Our charter has a specific process in place to identify capital projects.
Right.
So,
the train is leaving the station.
Yep.
so
We need to
we
put
just
something on.
aligned it with this
Right.
budget process so that there wasn't yet another meeting to
Right.
take place to identify these funds. You could have another town meeting at any point to do this, similar to a bond issue or something else.
Which
We just picked this process because it made sense.
it's faster.
It's our process, and it was gonna take place by May.
Right.
We
And-
do have until December of 2024, we have to earmark these funds, which means we have to you don't have to spend them all, but you have to have like contracts in place to be able to spend the funds, and then you have to spend them by 2026.
Right.
So to backtrack from that, you have to, before you have a project, a contract, you have to have a bid, you have to have design, and sometimes that stuff takes a while.
Right. So we will have, we anticipate that we will go out to bond in the future for the
School.
Beecher project,
Right,
right?
so you could, as David mentioned, you could decide to put part of the the former firehouse as part of that bond issue. And
Right.
maybe you'll have more information at that point.
Mhm.
You could do that.
But I think to David Lobert's point, the things that need to be prioritized have to go on a faster track. And this track is the fastest
That's
track.
correct.
It is faster than the Beecher track at this point
Right.
as
Yeah.
well.
Exactly.
So, I just don't, I mean,
The thing about the Beecher track is, with the roof, is we can hopefully get reimbursement for it.
yeah,
That's why we
that's
can't
why
just,
we can't go any faster with
Right,
that one. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
But we can add to it. So if we wanted to, we could add a line item here, earmark some of the money
You
that
could.
we've earmarked to the renovation of the former firehouse in the center of the town grove.
and we can add a line that says,
Split it by 3. It's $1 million, right now, it's $1 million, right?
right,
but if we're gonna split by 3, it's 333,000 each.
Yeah,
Could do that.
could do that.
I thought we had all the money for the interior of the firehouse. What's this additional 500,000 for? I know half of it is for the grounds, but what is the other 500 for? This is renovation of the former firehouse.
Because I don't think the 2 million is gonna cover it. We don't know, because we're waiting for Silva Petroselli to give us the numbers. That's what we spent money for.
Well, we're gonna go out to bid for it to
Right.
actually get the actual
We
figures.
should have those, month or so,
Probably in
yeah.
month and a half.
I mean, if we indicate it's only 333,000 now for that project, then they have to stay within,
Yep.
they have to stay within. In fact, they're able to go much faster if they can stay within the grant that they got from the state. Because that's
Correct.
already approved.
That's
There's
correct.
there's no vote
We
that has
have,
to
we
take
have
place.
$2 million, and we know we have to spend, we want to, we're not gonna give it back.
Right.
Yep.
So we have to, but depending on the numbers, who knows, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it'll cover it all, and if not, there may be some things we have to take out of that project.
I would draw the line at what the state gave us for that project, because I don't think it's fair for the taxpayers to have to pay for it, or if it has to come out of the ARPA money for other things that are more important.
Okay, don't forget as well with the business district, the name of the committee and in the business district and renovating it, cleaning it up and doing everything, 2030. This is not gonna happen all this year
No, it
with
won't.
this, and we're gonna continue to apply for grants.
Right.
Probably by the time I'm in the nursing home, it'll be done.
But we have to make a start on that. We have the opportunity to do that now.
I agree, and I think
know.
that's why 314,000 is a start. And Jason has assured us, he made it very clear, there's a lot of money. We
There
gotta
is.
get a lot of money, federal money, and he's gonna go after that with vigor, with us.
Yeah, that's true, but that's still,
So I don't wanna give more than,
that's
know,
still a maybe. Well, do we have
Well,
to,
so,
just a minute, David, do we have to earmark all of this money now because we have until September 24 to do this?
You have to, all this money has to be, you have to have contracts or obligations in place by December of 2024.
December of 2024.
Yeah, so
which
there's
is
another
yeah, at least a year.
year and,
3/4, right?
yeah,
So
less
there's
than
time.
3 years.
You know, this can be.
There's some time.
And
Right.
prices are escalating as we're
Just,
making our
sometimes time
decisions.
gets away from us,
Yeah.
That's the thing.
and 2 years goes by quickly, and I don't want to be in a position where,
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. I just,
this process takes sometimes a while, by the time you bid.
So more than half of this money that we've gotten from ARPA is going to the business
Yeah.
district.
I just don't want to see another ugly.
so Beth,
Yep.
if I can ask a question of you then. You say that more than half of the money is going to the business district, and then I'm looking at the 17 other, or a total of 17 different requests for ARPA funding from various groups. And we're saying now that instead of allocating some $2 million to the business district, we're going to take the $2 million grant that we got and add another at least $500,000 to it, and that is a higher priority than all of these other things. I again just simply say we don't know what kind of use we're going to get out of this. I really think we should have limited this with the committee and with the architects to say, tell us what you can do for $2 million, instead of coming back to us with a $5 million project that then we are looking to eat up cash that we know that we could use on community benefit. It does seem to me that once this project is up and running and $2 million can't do it, I think that would surprise me. But once the firehouse is up and running, if we find that it needs further alterations based on use, that we could fund it then instead of trying to pull money out now and spend it, because we know that this money is going to wither away if this is the way we choose to spend it.
Okay, well, we have to do something. I don't want to put $2.3 million into the business district. It's just my opinion. Not when we have an opportunity to get lots more money, according to Jason, from the federal government, and not do something in the Grove and also the gym.
Well, I would move to table the discussion of the Board of Selectmen portion of this, and look at some of these other pages of requests that we have.
What, the rest of the budget?
The capital, you mean? You want to go
You
through the
want
rest of the
capital
capital?
budget?
We can do that.
Yeah?
Sure, but we're gonna have to come back to it tonight. Okay, we'll skip it at the moment. You okay with that? Okay. And next one is building maintenance.
There were no changes to that?
Yep. Everybody okay with that one?
And again, these are bold numbers are pay-as-you-go.
Correct.
They'll be embedded in the.
Into the tax rate.
Yeah.
Correct.
I'm glad we're gonna paint the old South School, I have to say.
Yep.
Needs it badly. Okay, so that one we're moving on. Country Club of Woodbridge. There's nothing really for this coming year. Environmental remediation is put out until 2026, I think.
Correct.
Where's my magnifying glass here? Do the best I can. Okay, Fire Commission.
Fire Commission had the engine 9, which is the aerial apparatus, was moved out a year simply because that hasn't even been ordered or even discussed yet or approved. So there was the timing on that would be, you wouldn't even be ready to pay it at that time anyway.
Because we do a lease purchase with those vehicles, so
Right.
the first payment won't even be due at the minimum till 2025,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
If you approved it like now,
right.
the delivery time is very slow. The only other change is the hose, which was divided amongst 2 years. The other items are leased purchase items. There's the engine 3 and the radio upgrade and the air packs, which you just recently approved.
So we have to do those, we have no choice.
Right.
Yeah. Any questions, changes to that pack?
The engine 9, just so you know, I'm told is going to be delivered, aerial apparatus is below. Engine 9 is going to be delivered, which you did approve back a few years now. I think Sean said in the fall, I believe. Did he tell you that?
I can't remember.
So if it's
Yeah.
bid in the fall, then it won't be due until the following year. That's why we
Right.
put it out to 2025.
Right. Okay, any comments or recommended changes on that? Okay. Next is Human Services.
And Human Services, we're hopeful to receive a grant for the first item. I believe the Human Services Director is going to be applying for that. So that we removed. And the other 2 items.
Pretty confident they're gonna get it.
Yeah.
So she was comfortable with that.
And the other 2 items we just put out a year.
Any changes or suggestions on that group? Nope.
That's good.
Okay, information systems.
Same with the townwide Wi-Fi.
It would be a nice thing to have, but
Right.
so we just put it out a year at this point. Is everybody okay with that? Right. Then we have the library. They didn't ask for anything
Right.
until 2028.
No changes in parks.
Yep. Anybody have any comments on parks or changes or suggestions? We kept it in there. Okay, and then police.
Police is 1 vehicle instead of 2 as requested. The radios are most likely going to be a project where they will fund all those radios at once and pay them over time. So that will delay the payment about a year. So that's why that's moved out. And I think the rest of it we kept the same.
Yep, just looking down, 17. Wait a minute.
Or I think we might have
The door
the
locking
door
system.
locking system,
Yeah.
right?
We put that,
We just we
Yeah.
made it even, 2 even payments.
right. And
There's this little item at the end of the police budget of $4.8 million for building upgrade. That's kind of a surprise. So what's that all about?
They've had that in their capital request for many years.
probably 15 years at
Right.
least.
Yeah.
And that's, would be a bonded item.
Uh-huh.
If, so this is for planning purposes only, it's nothing that would be included in our tax rate. And this is being discussed actually as part of the center building committee.
So it won't impact this budget.
Okay, but, so anything that's bonded has to be voted on in the town
By
meeting?
the town, correct.
Right.
Right, so if there's something in here that's identified as a bond issue, it's simply for planning purposes only. It's for the
Get that.
public and other outside agencies to get an idea of what your total 6-year capital plan is. But does not get approved unless it goes to a separate town meeting specifically for that purpose.
So we have it sort of earmarked with the star 3, the asterisk. And
Bonding
that's-
star 3, correct?
Right, and that's the same as the bonding that we have up in the Board of Education piece.
Correct. Doesn't mean you're gonna do them together.
I was just gonna say, does
Yeah,
that, yeah, I
It just,
think people might
for
think
totals.
that's the case.
it's for a total, so you go to the bottom of the schedule,
Right,
and it totals all the bonded projects together, so
Yeah.
you can get an idea of what your debt load will be over the next 6 years.
right. So are we anticipating that it would go in the same time frame? Because right
Probably,
now,
yeah.
we're gonna show it in the same time frame. So I wonder if we should move
You
this.
can move it, certainly.
Just so that we make it a little
Yeah.
more clear that we'll do one bond that has to do
You're
with
probably a
Beecher.
few years out at least,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we can move it to
I don't know
2026.
necessarily, the police, we might get more successful. I don't know.
Probably a couple of years, but
Yeah,
you're-
I don't think it's gonna be several years, because
right,
there is federal funding to do emergency operations centers.
exactly.
It's out there right now, that's why I kinda wanna move on some of the center building.
Right.
Maybe at least get some shovel-ready projects, so I can call our senators and say, help, there is money
Here we are.
available, federal money,
Yeah.
not state money.
So maybe in that case, to
I'm okay.
2025?
Sure, I'm okay with 1 year.
Instead of
but-
six.
1 year's fine, yep.
Yeah.
There
Is that
there
so?
is state money for renovation for dispatch centers, so
Yep,
you
that's
should,
why we sent
keep that
that.
in mind.
Yep, that's why, as I mentioned last month, we've asked the dispatch committee to get going on looking at regionalizing.
Yeah.
Paul would give us an update, but he's not here. Okay. As long as it's in there,
Yeah.
Okay, David, are you okay following along here? David Vogel?
Yes, I was muted, but yes, I'm following right along.
Okay, good, just want to make sure. Because jump in if you have any comments or questions. The pool and the
Thank you.
gym, pool and gym,
Yep, pool and gym, we moved out the structural repairs out a year. As you know, you've approved the filters, as did the Board of Finance, so those are moving forward. And this would be more of the structural repairs as indicated in the report, which can wait at least a year or two, which would include, you see the main drains are identified there, and the one above that would be for, it's like a window that leak that, has some needs some repairs. So those are the two most immediate needs on that report.
And again, this is staying bold, so the intention right now would be
To
that
use
this
tax
would
dollars to
be-
pay for it, correct.
Okay.
Could come a future time when you may decide that otherwise, we can switch it.
Yeah, until we get to that fiscal year.
right,
Okay.
okay.
So that structural pool repair is not under the Board of Selectmen recommendation. Does that mean we're not gonna recommend it?
Not till the following year.
Till
We
the
feel we can
fall-
wait a year on that.
225, oh,
Yeah.
I see what you did there, okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it, the good news is we're gonna get that pool up and running. Hopefully Brad said maybe a couple of years, we don't know, but
Yeah.
at least it'll be up
Good.
while further decisions are made.
Mhm.
Anything on that else? Okay, Public Works,
Public Works, we lowered the road construction from 850 to 750, and the bridge reserve from 50 to 25.
Tony, going back to the previous one on the pool repairs, is that something that we might put out as a bonding, or is that
You could.
just to be put in?
We put it off a year, but you could decide at a later date, you know, we want to bond the whole thing and not include it under our pay-as-you-go process. And you could certainly do that, and then we would just change the schedule. There's nothing in the 2024 budget for pay-as-you-go for the pool to give you some time to make some of those decisions. We feel those repairs can wait till 2025.
So if that were the case, we would just take the bold off of it for
Correct,
now?
and then I'd put it in my, as a bonded item. And when you include it as a bonded item, then I run a lot of schedules to determine where our debt load is, where our debt load will be, and how much you can borrow, and all those other sorts of things.
I'm
So
reluctant.
is this, is
Go ahead,
the
David.
total expense on that pool the kind of thing that we should be bonding in terms of all of the renovations that they say are needed, or virtually, it seems
So-
like with
Yeah.
almost a full replacement at some level.
We have to decide what the Board of Education is going to recommend.
Yeah, so here's what I would here's what I would tell you.
About
The first
the
thing
pool.
I would say is for 869, or about probably close to $1 million, yes, you would most likely borrow for that if you were going to do it all at once. But you wouldn't borrow for that by itself, because the cost to borrow money are such that you pay a lot of fixed costs for bond counsel and rating agencies and financial advisors and access to the market. So you like to bundle projects together so that you're borrowing for at least $2, $3, $4 million, so that you pay those costs one time, as opposed to paying them for each issue. Does that make
Right.
sense? Does that make sense? So,
Thank you.
yeah. So if you were going to do, like, say, the school, and then maybe that's the time, because we don't borrow every year. Some towns borrow every year because they have a lot of projects and they're bigger. We obviously don't borrow every year. We haven't borrowed in quite a few years, other than the country club. So, if you have some projects, you're better off served to organize them together so that you can do them at the same time.
Oh, I see. And that's why we're waiting for the school board to come back, because you might bundle the pool together with the school board if that's their decision.
You could
Yeah.
bundle the pool with it. You could bundle some of the old firehouse if you so desire, or any other projects you want to borrow for.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. They're voted on separately, but when we borrow the money, we borrow them together.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So in that case, we are going to take the bold off for now, or you were saying something about this, Beth? Did you want to take the bold off and say that this is going to go to bonding, or
I wouldn't. I would wait until we get more data from the Board of Education.
just leave it as
They
is?
have that committee that we just brought to, that has a very long name, that expect to give us a report sometime, I think it's September.
Okay.
So I wouldn't at this point, but that's just one person's opinion.
Yeah, no, I think it's fine to leave it as it is
Yeah.
here. So we're not anticipating bonding. That's what we're indicating.
But we could certainly change it next year. Okay, we did Public Works, I think?
Public Works, yep.
Yep, okay.
Recreation, we moved the activity tent out a year. And
Tony, do you know if that's the same activity tent that was in our
Same
request?
one.
Okay.
Yep.
Thought there might be another.
No,
let's see, what's that?
Thomas Darling.
Darling House.
Yeah,
Thomas Darling House. So we have in there the funding to complete the cow barn project, which is the $52,000, and the chimney rebuild, which we were told is danger of, I'm not sure collapse, but it's not structurally doing
right, they're
very
not
well.
using it at this time, but it's
Right.
also tumbling, as I understand. So, and then as far as the caretaker's cottage, that roof,
We put the others out till the following
yeah.
year.
And I'm sorry, I've forgotten. The cow barn is the one on the same side with the house, and the
Other
horse
side.
barn is but the cow barn is the big one on the other
That was
side.
the one they're renovating currently, the cow barn.
Okay.
This is, so that it was more money than they had thought, so this is to finish that project.
Okay.
And then the match for the expected horse barn, we just put out, because it's a lot. We just can't do it all at once. Any comments about that section? Wouldn't it be nice if we could do everything at once? We just can't.
More grants, we need more grants here.
Yep. And then waste management,
Equipment replacement, we kept that in there. Pretty critical function.
yeah.
Is that at the transfer station?
Yeah. It's for equipment replacement, compactors, equipment that we need to compact the trash. It's pretty basic function.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is that everything?
That's it.
So we now have.
So just to follow at the bottom of the schedule, it then, it's a nice handy summary to provide you with a timeline of each year and the funding of each category. So you can see, for instance, the operating budget would be the pay-as-you-go portion. If this stays the same, you will see the 1.5 million is where we are, 1.55. The request came in at 3.2. So you can see the amount that was lowered.
Right.
And then going out the following 6 years would be 2.6, 2.3, 2.1, 1.8, 2.1. So it gives you an idea of sort of where those requests are going and
Right.
how that impacts your budget in the future.
So Tony, you would adjust the one that we said. we
I'll
were
adjust,
moving
make
a
the
year?
adjustments
Yeah.
that you said, and it'll ripple through, down to this schedule here. So if you had taken the pool out of the pay-as-you-go,
Mhm.
that would lower the operating budget line, but increase the bonded line.
In 2025.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. David say something?
You said fine.
Oh, okay. You said fine, right? Joe heard
So
you.
the only outstanding item on this is
Yep.
the ARPA
Board of
section.
Selectmen.
Right.
So, I'm happy to make, well, I always make the motions. Make a motion. Somebody make a motion. What is your motion on all these 4 items, Joe?
What we state.
As it is? As
Can I-
presented?
Can I make a friendly amendment suggestion? That we add a line and put some money for reflecting Dwight's memo. So I would take the 500, 500, and then add a line and make each of them 333, just
Okay.
to make it clear.
I'm
If
fine
that's
with that.
Friendly? Okay?
You still friends?
Yes, we're still
Okay.
friends now.
All right.
So I'll second the motion.
Okay. And we have a motion on the table, and we have a second. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye. We have 3 ayes. Opposed? David?
Yep.
The other David, Vogel? Unmute?
I'm sorry, nay.
Okay, thank you. All right.
So could I,
Of course,
could we have
whatever you want to do.
could we have a vote on the rest of the capital budget besides that section?
Yeah, now that that's determined,
Right,
because it'll be 330, 330, 330, is that what we're doing there?
yeah.
Yeah.
Or do
Okay.
you want to vote on the rest of it?
No, let's do the capital.
Yeah.
Our friendly guys
I
over there.
did not hear that David Lower wanted to table the part with the ARPA money, and by tabling it, wouldn't that mean we move it forward to the March meeting?
I believe he wanted to table it. We have to make a recommendation to the Board of Finance.
Correct, by,
But he wanted to table that section until we finished going through the rest of the budget. That's what I understood. And he's nodding, yes.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think we can table this to another meeting. No, we have to make a determination. It's not gonna
Yeah,
change.
right.
You know, you know what you want, and I'm have my recommendations, and that's, we're gonna vote.
Well,
on it.
but the amount isn't going to change. It's still going to be 200 and
2
it's still
million.
going to be the 200 and whatever $1,000 that we have of ARPA money. It's not going to. That amount isn't going to change. The Board of Finance can't change that amount.
correct.
Not the
Right.
total, that's
Correct.
correct.
Well, they could take
So
it down.
can we just approve everything else and have that discussion? Because we really haven't discussed as a board what our priorities should be in that regard.
Well,
Yeah, so,
We took a vote and it's settled.
yeah, we've done what we've done tonight, and my
Right.
understanding is at the public hearing, we can hear from the public,
Yeah.
and
You could.
and then
The
we
Board
have
of
an
Finance could
opportunity
change
to
it.
make
And also-
adjustments.
Correct.
Yep,
Correct.
exactly.
Because I take the
Feel free to
point
stand
that
up again and
we
do
do
it.
need to
No,
hear what the
I'm-
public thinks.
Yep,
Yeah,
I'm good with that.
All right.
I think
Okay.
the public should weigh in.
okay.
I think, yeah.
So now we need to make a motion for, help me with the motion, Tony, for
I mean,
the
unless-
capital budget.
Unless you wanna, well, cause that motion was just for the ARPA section of the budget.
That's correct, now we
Yep.
have to
We
do the
do-
capital
We
budget.
do need approval on the capital budget
That's
as
what
a
I
whole.
need help with, getting that motion out. Where is that number?
so,
It's the same, correct?
yeah, I think, I'll make a motion that
Okay,
we
thank you.
approve with the changes we've just made for ARPA,
Yeah.
incorporated into the full numbers as presented, with the adjustments we discussed.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And David Vogel?
Yeah,
Excellent.
I
Okay,
think I understood the motion. I'm not sure, but I agree.
okay, so that's unanimous, that part. Okay, great. Now we go back to the beginning, which is a very good place to start, of the operating budget. And we took our best stab, Tony and I, and, you know, and this is obviously something, where do we start with the Board of Selectmen? Correct?
Mhm.
Okay. So with that, you can see what the department had requested and Board of Selectmen proposed. Just scanning down quickly.
Clearly, the big item on this one is, if you look at printing and binding, we eliminated the townwide newsletter.
Because
That's
when we first started with, that's the one that's mailed to every home. And it has become cost ineffective. We are not getting the payments for it, we're losing money. And it takes a lot of time and effort from staff. And we have, you can obviously change this and add it back in if you want, but we have the Woodbridge Town News, we have e-news, and we can send out blasts, we have the town Facebook page. And this takes an enormous amount of staff time. As I said, we're not getting the ads we got in the beginning. And I spoke with the couple of the departments who said they're fine, they have other ways of getting information, the ones who use it. So it was our recommendation to, we'll get it through till, limp along until June. And then beginning July 1, we'll just eliminate that one, mailed to every home. So that's our thought on that. Another item that I'd like to call your attention to is the professional town council service, legal fees, and labor negotiations. I will remind you that we have a couple of issues. We have open communities, which is going to cost quite a bit. We have a FOIA, Dr. Loper's complaint that's sitting
Claim.
there. And you know what I found out? You filed that in November,
Yes.
and it came to us the end of January. They apparently have a large backlog up there, so this may not even come until next year, depending on what
Well, you can
happens.
hope.
We can hope. So,
That's a
anyways.
litigation line.
Yeah, so that's in the legal fees litigation line, and then we have labor negotiations coming up,
Correct.
because it's the union negotiations are coming up this year, so that, unfortunately, quite a bit of numbers there. So that's why we did that. Finance may decide to change it, but that's where we are. I don't think we changed anything else, maybe a little bit here and there, advertising, legal
Right,
ads
just
a little bit, yeah.
Those are the major items.
Right, but those are the biggies. So does anybody have any comments in any of these line items or corrections or suggestions? It's good to go? Board of Selectmen, okay, thank you. Probate court, we
No
changed
change.
nothing, and it's regional services, we have no choice, that's what they bill us, right?
Town clerk, minor change.
One little change, $1,000 somewhere, I can't remember where it was,
The
everything else is the same.
Permeated machinery.
Yeah. Anyone, any comments or questions on town clerk or suggestions? Okay. Registrars of voters,
No change.
no, we made no changes. If anyone has any, let me know. Going once, going twice, I feel like I'm at an auction. Okay, government access television. They had a 0% request, so I'm not changing that. Thank you. Anybody? Okay. General admin,
Really the two increases here is natural gas and insurance. At least with the insurance, we're still working on that, so hopefully by the town annual hearing, we'll have more information on that.
yep,
That's the liability insurance.
Liability, yeah, it's property, auto, liability, cyber, a bunch of things.
yep.
Yeah.
Anything? Nope, okay. Shout them out if you have anything. Information systems,
We reduced a few things here.
yep,
The telephone line, that's internet service that we're working on reorganizing, the computer line, and I think that's it.
so we took a little bit.
I hope to have more information on the telephone line and maybe able to reduce that further.
When does the Board of Finance meet? It's next week, right? Next Thursday, I think?
Thursday, the
No,
second.
Karen? Next Thursday,
second.
yeah. They'll have their first pass at this.
So I'm hoping to have more information for them
Yeah.
at that time.
Anything? David and David? Joe?
Nope.
Sheila? Okay. Finance Department. I don't think we did anything, but I can't remember.
It's all zeros.
It's in zero.
Well, that's why.
Better than zero.
Yes.
Tax collector?
Virtually zero.
Yep. Okay. Tax assessor. It was actually minus something, so we don't want to change that. Anybody want to, we don't want to touch that? I'm having trouble turning these pages. Okay, sorry. Board of Assessment Appeals.
You just adjusted that first line so that it's a zero increase.
Yeah.
That's, is that a staff number, regular?
It's just when the board meets,
Oh, I see.
that they get paid. I think actually the only board that gets paid,
I was gonna say.
if I'm not mistaken, by state statute.
Anything out there? Okay. Board of Finance.
We reduced contingency a little.
Took a shot.
It's a risk.
We'll see
of
what
course.
happens.
Contingency is just a risk.
And again, contingency's up because of the labor.
Because we're in the labor negotiations.
Right, we don't have those numbers yet, so it's there to plug it in once the negotiations are complete. So,
Correct.
anything? Okay. Plan and zoning. The general professional services is for the town planner, I believe, Tony?
It's for the consultant to assist with the town, create the town plan of conservation
Right,
and development.
right.
Which is a little different than the planner. Which
Right,
is-
right, you're right.
Uh-huh.
It has to be done and it's due in 2025. So
So
what
this
we
is.
did was, we put it out, it's gonna be 20,000 this year and 20,000
Or
next year.
however, we got to go out to RFP. and-
Right, and see what happens.
Right.
This is what we're putting in the budget, because they asked for 30. We might need more, we might need less, we don't know.
Just from memory, the last time around, it was more on the order of 60,000.
60, correct.
Good
So it could be
times.
20 and 40.
Yep,
Or
we're
more.
starting
Or
them
more,
off,
right?
we're starting them off with 20. Don't say more. We're starting them off with 20, just to get, get started. It is
Yeah.
due 2015, you're right, so 2025.
It has to be approved, so it has to go through that hearing process, so it really has to be ready.
Right.
And last time we did charrettes,
I
a
remember,
lot of input,
I remember,
it's a long process.
yes. Any comments, David or Joe? No, okay. Zoning Board of Appeals, zero budget. Center, it's more just utilities.
Utilities,
that are
basically,
killing
it's
us.
the gas bill,
Yeah,
basically.
maybe it'll get better, who knows? Anything on that from anybody? I'll leave it, okay. Former fire station,
So this was reduced back down to, the electricity in particular was reduced to actually what we spend, as opposed to anticipating whether or not the building will be in use. And if the building's in use, we'll just have to react to it at that
Right.
time.
We just don't know.
Tony, do you
This is-
think that'll all go up when it gets in use?
The electricity will, of course, because it'll be used a lot more, and the lights, will be on more, but to what extent, I'm not really sure. Which is why we reduced it back down. Plus, I'm not sure of the timing on that, in terms of how long the project will take, and if it'll even be on time, or,
It, and I guess because we got natural gas, we must be heating it now, is that the case?
that's correct. But it's
And
heated at a lower level. It's just at a
This
certain
is-
level
it's just
for,
right, it's just
stores some
storage. The
fire
fire
equipment.
department stores
Right.
stuff over there.
that's like temperature
And we-
sensitive, but
Yeah.
it's not like, 68 degrees. It's just warm enough for certain.
Right, so
certain
what are they storing there now that needs to be heated?
They store
A lot of
speedy
items.
dry,
Yeah, they have a
store,
lot of stuff that's, for, response to a structure fire. Light trailers, there's a couple trucks, smaller trucks, response trucks over there. I'm not sure, you could check with the fire chief for sure.
Okay,
I don't
Just-
know
just-
100%.
Yeah,
not
hose.
necessary for this budget, sorry, just
Yeah.
wondered.
Yeah,
hose, I think.
and
some
hose, right, fire hoses
Fire
over
hose has to be a
there.
certain temperature.
A
Yeah.
lot of response stuff that isn't used on a daily basis, for
Well,
MBAs
so
or
this is
whatever.
gonna probably more than double the next
Oh,
time around,
easily,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
easily. For
Yeah.
but I'm not sure it'll be next year. It might be the year after.
Right, we just don't know.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So, Tony, we're putting electric back to current use, and that natural gas is higher only because natural gas is costing more.
Correct, because we renegotiated the contract for natural gas a couple months ago, and it went
Now
way
we're
up. But electric is locked in until, not this fall, but the following.
Oh,
So
good.
we're locked into electric for a while.
One good thing.
Good, that's good. All right.
Anybody have any comments on that? Okay. Police department. We did some things here.
Did.
Where are we? What do
We
we
kept
need
any
changes?
extra officer requests,
Right.
but we reduced overtime
Mhm.
to the current year. We reduced a few items. If you go through the list.
Yeah, hopefully you guys had a chance to look at these and want to make any comments or suggestions on any of it. Line items. Can't put them up, but we can put them,
So I just have
Run
a
back.
question about the overtime, because we're keeping the number in there for police
Oh.
officers that they've asked for.
Correct.
We would anticipate
Overtime.
less need for
Correct.
overtime. They kind of have both numbers in there, but
Right.
if they got both,
Hopefully the other one goes
that's
down.
not what they need.
Exactly.
I see,
Yeah.
okay. That makes sense.
If you pay overtime, you don't have to pay benefits to another officer.
That's true.
You actually save money paying overtime.
Even when it's time and a half or whatever.
That is true, yeah.
yeah. So there's a little bit here and a little bit there in some of the other items, line items. Anybody have any comments or suggestions for anything?
So the other thing we're taking down is the vehicle repair and maintenance, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And is that because we're gonna try to do more in-house, or?
I think we kind of looked at this year. did
Right,
we?
where
Yeah.
their purchasing was, we
Yeah.
felt that we,
Make it limp along.
I see, yeah,
I don't mean limp. I mean, we want to obviously maintain our vehicles to top shelf, but
yeah. Right. It looks like the projected budget's a little higher than the amended budget, right? If you go
Right.
backwards over there, so maybe we
Correct.
pre-bought some of these
Yeah.
repairs,
right,
hopefully.
hopefully, yeah.
anything else on that? Okay. Fire commission. Again, it was just little things here and there to get us back, maybe to, we don't know, I mean, obviously what they spend and things come up, but just tried to make it a little bit,
Some of the supply accounts we
Yeah.
reduced.
right,
We kept the IT and some of the software issues that they have. And the cleaning is just a relocation of the part-time maintenance account into the cleaning account.
We kept medical expenses.
For physicals,
Yeah,
yeah.
up. Volunteer incentives stayed the same as they asked.
We always keep gear replacement, encourage them to get new members.
And it's a safety issue for current members as well, if they, need a new uniform or something, make sure they're safe. Any comments or suggestions? No, okay. Medical services, this is a contract, year what, 4?
4,
Yeah, of a 5-year, right?
yep.
So that'll have to be, got
Watch
one
it
more
be
year
already.
and then, yeah.
Quick as time flies.
I feel like we just did it yesterday. Oh, it does go by quickly. Animal control, kept the same. Regional services. Building department, it's a negative
It's a
number,
negative
so
number.
who wanted to touch that? Public Works, what did we do, Tony? I don't remember.
We reduced the contracted services from 260 to 220.
What did they do with contracted services?
Contracted services is everything from line painting to street sweeping to tree removal. Tree removal is a big one in there. To all the items that the department cannot do in-house, that we hire we contract out to companies to assist with. Those are probably the 3 big ones. In that
Is the thinking that we might be able to?
Well, a lot of it's based on how many trees, and we've just in the past have been able to fund additional tree repairs within the budget, so we're hopeful that the same thing can take place.
I'm not gonna say anything about sand and salt.
Right.
Had a
We
nice
haven't
winter,
used- yeah.
great winter so far.
That's our
Nice.
hope is that
So
we'll
I
be able
didn't say
to use some
anything
of that
about
sand
it,
and
but
salt
who
money
knows?
if the tree for the tree budget, and therefore,
I see.
Yep, might be able to help us out.
yep.
Waste management. Scanning over
Waste
this.
management was just bulky waste. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kinda high,
Yeah.
so we reduced that a bit. Any comments on this one? Okay.
So, can I ask a
Oops.
question about with waste management? We've talked a lot about what's happening with the transfer station, what the costs are to get rid of recycling.
Right. You can see the increase.
Yeah, so do you anticipate that there might be a point in time where the Board of Selectmen will have to up the rates a little bit?
So I'm glad you asked that question. There are going to be definitely a time when you're going to have to up the rates for. So we charge for bulky waste. Pretty much, anyone who brings in bulky waste, which is demo, which is other thing, gets charged. For tip fees, that's waste. That's solid waste, garbage basically. We charge the haulers only, and not individuals that bring it to the transfer station themselves. So there, we'd have to review what we charge haulers, but also, some places charge people that bring waste by the bag or by the pound or whatever.
Pay as you throw.
Pay as you throw, right? So that's something you may have to investigate, whether or not you want to do that. And then if we do not charge for recycling, and I'm not sure anybody does, but at some point,
It's costing
I don't
us
know.
more than waste.
It's costing us a lot more than
Yep.
waste. Recycling's $99 a ton, waste is $62 a ton.
And again, we've talked about the education piece of it. If there are things that are going in the recycling bin that can't actually be recycled, not
Which
only are we paying
increases-
more,
Increases the cost.
but it should be going into the garbage instead.
So here's what happens.
Yeah,
It goes into the recycle bin, goes to the recycling place, costs money to separate it, they ship it to the solid waste place.
and then charges.
It charges for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not only paying to send it to the recycling, you're paying to get it out of the recycling, and you're paying to ship it to the solid waste plant.
Right, so our costs are going up pretty, not significantly, but they're
And
going up.
let's talk about glass.
Yeah, Glass
Another
is very
thing that's a
difficult.
problem.
And food waste.
Yep.
It's very
Right,
heavy.
food waste,
so,
yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, so these are all things
Those are all
that
issues with
during the
recycling.
year we can work on.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And our waste contract expires the end of 2024, end of this budget year.
Yeah.
So it could go to 80, we're at 62, it could go to $80, $90 a ton, which would increase that other line significantly.
Yep.
At that point, you may decide it's time to start pay as you throw.
What's the solution?
Well, the solution, there's a lot of different things being discussed. One is to remove food waste from the garbage stream, which is actually a significant portion of the waste stream, including in terms of weight. And that's definitely one thing being looked at. The other is the recycling. They're being looked at placing the burden on recycling on the manufacturers as opposed to on the end users. So that there are other in other countries where recycling rates are much higher because of the products are made so they're easier to recycle, and education is a lot better. And so, right now, it's the end user who's responsible.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of movement in this area. I'm not sure what the timing will be.
It's not just our.
Well, it sounds like it's costing us more to recycle than to just throw it away.
Correct.
Yep.
A lot more.
Yep,
Well, why, I mean, it's not environmentally friendly, but it seems like throwing it away is a much better deal for the consumers.
yeah.
But yeah, this is certainly an issue the board should look at
Right.
throughout the year.
We have some ideas, but I don't know if they're gonna be workable this year or not.
Right.
We just have to see. Okay, anything on waste management we wanna change at this point? Okay. Building maintenance. I can't touch this budget, 0.01%. We didn't do anything.
Human services, we
Yeah.
reduced youth services a little bit.
Yep, just youth services, and there was something else, I think. What was it?
Are we thinking fewer youth are being served, or?
No, this is a transfer out to a youth services fund,
Oh.
which is it's a separate fund that was created years ago. So this is just one piece of a number of revenue streams that fund gets. And they get grant money is another one, and there's money from Bethany that helps to offset their expenditures. So we're pretty confident that that this should be enough to fund their operations.
Is this for the Amity Teen Center?
No, this is for the Youth Services Department at the Human Services. The Amity Teen Center is funded out of the Selectmen's budget in regional services.
Ah, okay.
I think that was, you're right, that's the only thing we changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony, help me out here. I'm looking at the department request and the BOS proposal. I see the same column of numbers and I get different totals. What am I missing?
In
You're talking
human
about human services?
'Cause
I'm
we
talking
took,
about human services.
So the last line we
Last
switched.
we changed. Transfer out youth services.
Okay, yeah. Got it. Oh, yeah. All right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta go all the way to the end there to find it, right? Okay,
Yep.
recreation,
I think it wasn't a full day.
What did we drop on rec?
something with seasonal maybe?
Part-time maintenance?
No, part-time maintenance, right. Drop that a little bit.
Yeah, maintenance.
A
So,
little bit in car allowance, we put down a little.
can I
Right.
ask, I know we talked a little bit at the Board of Selectmen meeting when we made when we're moving employees around. Is it possible that we'll be able to save any money in our costs here, our staff costs for recreation? If they don't fill that last part-time position?
You mean now that the person from recreation has gone to accounts payable?
Right, because they had a
Yes, it's
1.5
possible.
Correct, that's possible.
FTE.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
possible.
definitely.
We're just not sure. Might even know in the next couple of weeks, we just don't know.
Right, right.
Okay, so maybe that'll
Board of Finance.
clarify when the Board of Finance.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, because I know we mentioned it to the Recreation Chairwoman.
I know-
and-
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think March 3rd is the beginning of when the Board of Finance starts to look at this, and
That's
then they have
correct.
another opportunity 2 weeks later at their regular meeting to.
Right, and they have until the end of March.
Okay, so they could have another meeting, they could have 3 meetings
They could.
next month,
Yeah.
if necessary, to make these changes, do stuff, okay.
Great.
Anything else on recreation? Okay, pool and gym, 0.
Right. Pool should be up and running by July, so should have a pretty full.
July
August,
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Yep.
if that's the case, we're not really gonna see any savings here.
No, not really,
It's all gonna be.
no.
We had some this year, which
Yes.
actually helped pay for the filters.
Yes.
Parks,
Parks, we reduced the groundskeeping portion, which is for the trail trees, and we'll just see how that goes.
if they need a little bit, we'll have to find it.
Correct.
Or maybe they could do a line item transfer someplace.
Right, right.
Just keep an eye.
Mhm.
Anything on that? Anybody? Okay. Thomas Darling House is what, pass-through?
Pass through, you know. We charge the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society pays the expenditures for the Darling House, the revenue item, and so this is essentially a pass through.
Library. Dropped it
The
somewhere.
the books line and subscriptions.
Yeah, we put it back to where it was, right, this year.
Correct.
And subscriptions, I think that's all we did?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Any comments? No? Okay. Conservation Commission. Equipment parts, forgot what that was for, and we thought we could give them half
For the boot
this year.
brushes and,
Right, and something. We thought we could do half this year, really not more.
mhm.
And that overtime regular, is that staff costs?
Correct. It's for someone to clerk the meetings.
Ah, okay. I wonder if that's somewhere that we could potentially get if a volunteer on
You
the
could.
commission.
If they do, then you don't have to do that.
Right,
Yeah, I mean, some boards and commissions are doing it as volunteer
And
and
some
some.
don't.
right. And we're so, we're mindful of FOIA rules, so we have to make sure
Right.
it's
We have to
done
make sure it's done right.
correctly and on
correctly, right,
time
and on
and
time, right.
posting and it's, you guys know.
Yes.
So we thought until we know for sure, we better make sure it's done correctly.
Mhm. We could always work on it during the year.
Yep, true. Economic development is a 0%, so we did not make any changes. Inland wetlands, the same thing. Feel free to shout it out if you want to do something different, but they did that. All right, I'll let Tony do employee fringe benefits.
So employee fringe benefits, we're still working on healthcare. We should have that definitely by the April meeting, hopefully by the Board of Finance March meeting. We should have a better idea. I'm hopeful that'll be, hopefully that can reduce that. We're very helpful on that. Same thing with retirement, we'll have a better idea on the rate from the state. It usually comes out in March, I think, right, Karen? So those two may offset each other if they increase the rate for retirement. And same thing with workers' compensation, it's along with insurance. So a lot of these are we're getting better pricing on, and hopefully we'll have that by definitely the April meeting.
Debt service,
That's fixed.
down.
Yeah.
That is what it is, what we owe.
And there's no estimate in here for a school project. So I'm assuming even if it gets approved sometime next year, we won't have an actual issue. It's one thing to approve it, it's another thing to get the issue, which is after you get, the state gets approval, and you have to get the pricing and all that stuff, so.
And
I'm
we-
guessing it'll be the year after, by the time we actually pay a bond issue.
I was gonna say, we might do bond anticipation.
Right,
in
and then sometimes you
between.
do notes for 6 months until you have the, right,
So no new debt expected.
right, right.
The Board of Ed. We left it as is.
The adjustments to the Board of Education.
The Board of Finance will have a pass.
Yeah, this is a big number. I guess the one comment I would make here is that the only thing that kind of came up to the surface for me was they had the option to, they're looking to put in a STEM teacher, and they moved that into a faster anticipation, trying to have that for next year. If that's something that can wait, this might be the right year to do that. But again, this is really up to them, and I think that they, if they're continuing to consider their budget and think about where they're at as we get closer to our public hearing and our annual town meeting, if they can find any savings, because 4.9 that's a significant amount of money.
It is.
After last year's significant amount of money. So,
Any other comments on that?
I also
Amity-
actually
Amity would-
wonder,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
one other thing. They're currently running a bit of a surplus, little bit of a surplus, and there was some discussion at the building committee level to say that there may be some items that could get funded as soon as possible if they still are projecting a surplus. Rather than bringing a surplus back to the town, that's not a particularly efficient way. We've raised the taxes, it's in their account, and if they can spend it on things, so,
Similar to what we do with our contingency,
yes.
stuff that we take out from the following year and use it to,
Makes sense.
but it's all at this moment fluid and not,
Right.
determined.
Yep, and they can
That's a
change
good
it if
idea
they,
to keep that in mind.
yeah.
The Amity goes to referendum, so that's their, right, we don't
Right.
we don't get into that.
Correct.
So with regard to Amity, I know we were asked to participate in they have a SharePoint list of questions and answers that they were
Right.
trying to field. And I told Donovan that I would send him something, so I had a few ideas that I will probably just send along, and we'll find out what the answers to those questions are.
Okay.
There was an article that came out, I think on Friday, from the Amity Board of Ed chairman, in a newsletter that's come out, and it's a little confusing to me about, they're talking about the money that is being not returned or refunded. What is the phrase they're using for lowering our allocation of credit this year? But that's not really available for next year. Is that right? Okay.
Not directly.
Yeah,
Yeah. But we talk about that when we get to revenue?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
we have to, because it's not really part of this.
It's not the
Right.
budget.
Page.
Yeah,
Right.
there's nothing that can offset this budget, as far as we understand it.
Right.
Right.
All right.
So we're capital and non-recurring,
That's what we just went over.
We did
right?
Yep.
And, yeah, we did, we voted to send it off to the
Yep.
Board of Finance, okay?
Mhm.
So, what else are we
But
talking?
you have to, well, you can vote on the operating budget,
Okay,
and then to recommend to the Board of Finance.
okay. Someone like to make a motion
So,
for how much?
So as presented, we didn't actually make any changes.
No, I don't think we did.
No,
We didn't make any changes.
no, we didn't.
So,
presented.
So as presented.
as presented, 57,012,678, right?
Mhm.
Okay, to the Board of Finance.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions or anything? I want to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, David.
Okay,
She,
one last
excuse
section.
me, was it Sheila? No, he
Joe
made
made,
the motion.
I seconded.
and-
You seconded, that's what they vote.
One last item is revenues. Just want to review those quickly.
Yeah.
This is good stuff.
So, the revenue's broken down into six categories. These are all non-tax revenues, or revenues other than property taxes. The first section is non-current tax revenue. We made no changes to that. That's basically prior year tax revenue and delinquent interest. That's pretty consistent each year. Secondly is intergovernmental revenue. And for this, we increased the revenue estimates from 1.965731 to 2.374986. 66, excuse me. So it's basically an increase from 1.9 to a little less than $2.4 million. And that's follows in line with the governor's recommended budget. So basically the estimates here are all from the governor's recommended budget for the motor vehicle amount, for the town road aid, for education cost sharing grants. Education cost sharing went from 494,503 to 516,322, so it went up just a bit. And so these are all placed in our estimates for the selectmen's proposed budget. We'll follow the legislative process as it unwinds itself, and if there are any adjustments to this, we will pass them along.
So, Tony, with regard to the ECS number, I believe the state had paused in the phase-in of
Right.
their previous thing.
Right.
They're unpausing, and yet we're going up, and if I understand correctly, we're going to continue to go up
A
in
little
the
bit.
next few years.
Yeah.
And I think what they've introduced in that formula that perhaps is causing the slightly more reimbursement for us is sort of a, not a bonus, but a credit for sending students into a regional school district. The more we're sending students in, we're getting, it's being weighted in a formula.
Sort of like a regionalization sort of,
Little carrot
Carrot,
for
right.
regionalization. It appears that way.
That's
So
interesting.
that's something new, because ours had been
Right.
going down.
Yes,
Yeah.
and from what I can understand, Bethany and Orange are still going down, but we are going up. And I wonder if we should maybe ask some more questions and find out more, because every student that you put into a regional school district, or a grade that goes into regional school district, appears to bring you more ECS funding from the state. If that's the case, as we talk about overcrowding at Beecher, there might be an opportunity if 6th grade were to move to Amity. So sort of estimating what the benefits of this would be and weighing that with the costs, because we know there's a back and forth to be had, but it seemed interesting, and that's just part of the story, is that our ECS aid is going up. So that's good news.
No.
Yep.
Okay. The next section is department.
Tony,
Yes.
Tony, is that motor vehicle intergovernmental part because of the change in the mill rates on cars?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's a year. It's like a year behind. So they use the last year's information and give the money to us this year. So yeah, so that's the amount of money to offset the fact that the motor vehicle mill rate is capped at 32.46.
And is it still behind? It seemed to me last year we were not getting a full measure of
Yeah, it's
our,
always behind a year. So
Okay.
that's just the way the program is set up, because they don't have the information. Obviously, we're still going through the process, so
Yep.
they won't know it until summer, whatever. Okay, department charges. So one of the ones we increased was the amount for building permits. As you know, we have a couple of projects starting. So
72 homes on Bradley and Litchfield.
Right.
72 homes, and
correct.
So, right.
So I'm not, yeah, that's
So
right.
that's
So
gonna
that's going to
help,
start up
yeah.
a little, and so we increased that just a little.
over 55 housing. Yeah.
It was sort of evolving as we as this would be coming in. So, and that could even go even higher, I would imagine.
Yeah. So you don't wanna do too much.
Not right, not until we find more information out.
Right, exactly, something happens where,
Interest income increased a little. Our rates seem to we're peaking, I think, but I think we're comfortable increasing that to 385. And then the last section is other revenues. That's the part I wanted to discuss particularly, and you'll notice the big increase here is fund balance appropriation from 400,000 to 800,000. You'll also notice the Amity surplus funds goes from 600,000 to 0. And as we discussed at your monthly meetings, and as Sheila mentioned this a bit earlier, we no longer receive the Amity surplus funds as a check. Rather, we get a credit on one of our payments. So essentially, we are contributing less to Amity, thus puts more into our fund balance, which is why I think it's a little less than 400,000 this year. So that's why I increased it to 400, from 400 to 800,000. Has sort of the same effect on the tax rate. It's just different, classified differently. Does that make sense? Instead of getting the 400,000, whatever it is, and then I put it in as an Amity surplus and keep the fund balance at 400. Because we get it as a credit, it increases our fund balance at the end of the year. And so we just passed it along to the taxpayers as an increased fund balance appropriation.
Right. So we have to do something with it this year when it comes in.
It comes in, it just, we don't do anything because nothing comes in. We pay less.
Right, so we'll have,
So we have money in the expenditure budget. It's like a surplus and an expense line.
Right.
That we don't pay. So therefore,
I think it's the March payment, correct?
it's the March payment,
Yeah.
right?
So
yeah,
we'll
so
know.
very soon.
Yeah.
So that's about 400,000, and then,
Between that, if you add that with the fact that the budget was defeated last year, we didn't have, the budget was lower to begin with.
right,
Those are sort of two different
130,000 or
pieces.
something.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are two different pieces. If you add those together, it's a little less than 400,000.
right. And our policy is when we experience a surplus in a line item like that, and the end of the year comes, we move that to the fund
Goes
balance.
into fund balance, that's just the
Yeah.
way it works.
So since it's gonna go into fund balance, then that's why you're drawing out 800,000.
Correct,
Because we're
Exactly.
making an extra 400,000 in.
correct.
Okay.
Because we're taking an extra 400,000 in,
Right,
at the end of the year, put an extra 400,000 in to balance the budget the following July.
Right.
Yeah.
so we'll just need to be careful that people understand.
Under-
It's not
correct.
that we're just drawing more from the
Yeah.
fund balance.
Right,
It's because of the change of how those funds are being handled.
correct.
And it's essentially jumping a year for us.
Right.
This is not usually,
It's timing wise, you're right,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Does that make sense, hopefully?
Yeah.
Okay. And those are our revenue, so those are our revenue estimates for selectmen. We will monitor a lot of these factors and revise them as necessary as we move forward.
It's good,
That's it.
all right.
So I would just, so you could recommend, now you could recommend the mill rate. Right, Jerry? That's the only thing left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that on this sheet?
Oh,
With
here.
the ch-
There's 2 mill
Oh,
rates.
tax
These
rate.
two.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we recommend the mill rate, regular mill rate, to be at 45.95%.
45.95, right? That's for real
Yeah.
estate and personal property.
Yeah. And then motor vehicle mill rate at 32.46.
Right, correct.
Is
That's
that
capped
correct?
by the state.
Yeah. Is there a
Second.
second? Okay. Any comments on either of those? Just going to the Board of Finance. now.
Correct.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
And David? Vogel?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. So that's unanimous. So I think we're good.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much. Very good work, everybody. Got that
Look at
done.
it, David.
Yep. Take care of yourself.
thank you. I feel much better. I just didn't want to infect you guys.
We appreciate you. Thank you.
We do appreciate that.
Yeah, it's very helpful. This motion second. Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
No, you-